I'm very fortunate that he, sometimes plays like me.
He used to come crawling and watch me play, and he used to continuously smile and enjoy watching me play.
And I asked that, who's this guy? And I said, he's from Hyderabad.
We saw him getting hundreds, double hundreds and triple hundreds.
As far as his batting is concerned, I would rate him higher than Rahul Dravid.
Even the Australian crowds, they just love him.
Mark Waugh later said, I can't believe even Bradman would have played better than that.
When people talk of Indian cricket, that innings will always be at the forefront.
VVS Laxman was born into a family of doctors in Hyderabad on the 1st of November 1974. Both his parents practiced medicine, but for young Laxman, the lure of the willow was not easy to resist.
Even as a toddler, Laxman used to show a lot of interest in the game. He used to watch me do a lot of shadow practice and knocking on the backyard. And he used to come crawling and watch me play, and he used to continuously smile and enjoy watching me play. That was my first remembrance of Laxman, specific to his interest in the game.
A product of the Little Flower School in the heart of Hyderabad, Laxman's talent for the game was nurtured by this man, John Manoj. Barely a stone's throw away from Laxman's uncle's house, Manoj had started an academy, and Laxman was among his first pupils.
Immediately when Laxman came to this ground, and among all the boys, we could find something in Laxman, because the way he was playing the ball and the way he was sighting the ball, that showed us, it gave us a little bit of encouragement, since we also started our cricket academy in the same year when Laxman started.
I picked Laxman from one coaching camp, net actually. We used to practice there. We used to go and practice at that St. John's net. And this boy used to practice there. And I talked to the coach there, and I said that this boy looks to me, he's got a good technique. I would like to put him in a Premier League and see how he's going to perform there, because I'm looking for some youngster.
Ayub had hit upon a special talent. Not only was Laxman extremely skilled, he also had an insatiable appetite for runs. At an under-12 match in Vijayawada, a sleepy South Indian town, a future India colleague was on the receiving end of an eye-catching innings.
Oh yes, he was by far easily the best cricketer I had seen at that time, at that level. I hadn't seen anybody who had so much confidence, who had so much time, and he was so graceful. I mean, normally they say left-handers are graceful, but I would say Laxman at that age was absolutely graceful, and he could dominate attacks. He could just bat at will, and that was something which told me at that time that there was something special about this kid.
Although Laxman was terrorising bowlers in junior cricket, his family wasn't convinced about the game as a viable career option. Laxman also had an excellent academic record, and there came a time when young Laxman had to make a big decision. Would he be a cricketer or a doctor?
He got around 96% in his biology, physics and chemistry in the intermediate, in the 12th standard. So he was there to become a doctor. And seeing his growth in the game, as a family it was decided that we will give him some more opportunities. His father took the decision that we will give him some more time to show his caliber in the game, and depending on how he performs, we will take a call later on. Give him 1 or 2 years more to see how he will perform in the game.
Almost immediately, Laxman justified the family's decision. Picked to play for the India under-19s, he made an impact on the visiting Australia team. It was the start of Laxman's special affinity for Australian bowling attacks.
It was same with Aussies. See the present trend, I think Gillespie and all these guys played against him, Simons and all this. And we could see him that playing so well. And incidentally, the match was here in Hyderabad. Sandeep Patil was the coach. He came here and he played a practice match here. Then Laxman got about half a century and he played very well. Then we knew that he is going to make it to the Indian junior team at least.
I remember at this ground, same Gymkhana ground, he scored some 60 odd runs against Brett Lee, who had come with the Australian schoolboys. So that knock I can't forget, the way he played pace. It was more, immediately you could say that he is a resemblance of Hazard.
Yadav wasn't the only Hyderabad player to spot Laxman's striking resemblance to the greatest batsman the city had ever produced, Mohammad Azharuddin. Soon the domestic circuit was buzzing with tales of this Azhar lookalike.
I was sitting and having lunch at the Madras Cricket Club when an under-19 match was going on. Hyderabad was playing Kerala. I think it was on that occasion. There was somebody, a tall man, wiry frame, and he just played a mid-wicket drive. And I was telling somebody that I was having lunch with, it reminds me so much of Azharuddin. And I think a couple of under-19 boys, Tamil Nadu under-19 boys, were practicing that day. They came to say hello to me. And I asked that, who's this guy? Who's this guy? And I said, he's from Hyderabad. His name is VVS Laxman. He's a very good player and things like that. And I think that particular shot reminded me of Azhar.
And very soon, the man whose mirror image Laxman was being touted as also got his first glimpse.
When I first heard about him was in '94 when I was playing in the county, playing for Derbyshire. Under 19 team had come to England, and then I think he got 100 in one of the games. Then that's when I really heard about him that okay, he's going to be one of the good players. He's got I believe he got a very good 100 in that game, because where the wicket had a lot of pace and a lot of bounce and a lot of movement as well.
Laxman had impressed the men who mattered in Hyderabad cricket, and at just 18 he was introduced to the State Ranji Trophy team. His first captain was the same man who'd spotted him 5 years earlier.
I think probably the first class match he played under me at Punjab, got a bad wicket where he had a bad experience there, but after that he never looked back actually. We played on a wet track, and I think probably Laxman got out of the first ball there. But after that, that was the last match of the season. Then next year he picked up really well, and he started playing really well after that.
On a rank turner, this guy could on-drive leg spinners and left-arm spinners. We were trying to bowl on in the rough and try to get him. He was sitting, and he had that gift of timing.
Given his track record in junior cricket, big runs from Laxman's bat were inevitable. But more than his insatiable appetite for runs, there was a poetic charm to Laxman's batting that struck all those who saw it.
He got 100 against us in a Dilip Trophy game. And I remember talking to Robin after the game. I was so impressed by his skills, and Robin said that I would personally rate VVS Laxman as a better player than Rahul Dravid as far as his timing is concerned. I'm not too sure about his temperament and his concentration skills, but as far as his batting is concerned, I would rate him higher than Rahul Dravid. And coming from Robin, who has been at that level and who has played that cricket with them.
VVS Laxman made his debut at Ahmedabad against South Africa in November 1996. After making only 11 in the first innings, he scored 51 in the second. On a testing pitch, he was the only half-centurion in India's meagre total of 190. It proved crucial as South Africa were beaten by 64 runs after an incisive 6-wicket spell by Javagal Srinath.
He always had that spark in him. I think he sort of emulated Mohammad Azharuddin, so it was always exciting to watch him batting. I didn't get to see a big innings of Laxman, but I think his debut match where he got his 50 was very impressive.
But with no places available in a packed Indian middle order, Laxman was offered an unfamiliar role as opening batsman.
Myself, Manohar and his uncle used to discuss this thing about Laxman being number one. So normally what we used to justify ourselves in arguing on a topic of where Laxman should go and bat. But all the conclusions were coming in, but I was telling, if he's getting a chance, why not open? Because it is not the end of it, because first thing is to make it to the country.
Laxman's first assignment as opener came on the tour to the West Indies in 1997. Against the likes of Ambrose and Walsh, Laxman fought gamely, but was clearly not relishing batting in an unfamiliar position.
I was in Chennai at that time and he called me up and he asked me, Babu Mama, I'm going to open. They asked me to open, they're selecting me as an opener. So what is this and what do you do? I said, yeah, go ahead, you're a good player of fast bowling, I don't see any difference. Because I was confident and there was some reason for that also, in the sense that there were some other good cricket players who had watched Laxman, who opined that Laxman will also make a good opening batsman.
Although he made only 172 runs in 4 tests, Laxman made 2 brave half-centuries in the West Indies. But he started finding his feet as an opener in more familiar conditions at home. Against Australia at the Eden Gardens in 1998, Laxman made a sparkling 95 and put on an opening stand of 191 with Navjot Singh Sidhu.
My impressions were that here is a man who's endowed with immense talent, but I think he's flashy. He has this maverick approach of, hitting at almost everything. And talent is nothing if it is not controlled, disciplined and harnessed. Although he got a fine 90 in that innings, but then he was not doing justice to his potential. The shot selection was not right.
In his 17th test, VVS Laxman finally made his first century. It came at Sydney in January 2000, where he smashed a memorable 167 that contained 27 fours. But he failed in the one-day triangular tournament that followed. And after making 16 and a duck in the first test against South Africa at Mumbai in February 2000, he was dropped. In 23 innings as an opener, Laxman was averaging below 30. He wasn't enjoying the role and announced he would never open again and try instead to regain his place in the Indian team as a middle-order batsman.
The bogey was being raised that he is not an opening batsman. He's a middle order batsman, he is not an opening batsman. So we said that when this particular bogey is continuously being raised, let's not accept it anymore. He's a middle order batsman from childhood. So do the experts feel that he's a middle order batsman, so be it. So I play cricket, I play as a middle order batsman, I don't open anymore. So that was the decision that was taken. And that was what he communicated.
Laxman returned to the domestic circuit and began a staggering run of form that saw him score century after century for Hyderabad. For one man who had shared both the India and Hyderabad dressing rooms with him, this mind-boggling intensity in Laxman's cricket is still a cherished memory.
Against Delhi, he got 180 and 200. Then again he got 100 in UP. Then he got a 300 against Karnataka. I think that 300 against Karnataka was the best I've seen. And they had the best of attack, like Magresh Prasad, you had Sunil Joshi, Dodda Ganesh, all these guys. But I think every over he was getting runs with ease. And I think the willingness to come back into the team was the main, and he used to work a lot.
Laxman returned to the national team against Australia in 2001. After failing in the first test at Mumbai, his career was at a crossroads. His figures going into the second test at Kolkata did no justice to his talent, and a distraught Laxman was contemplating his future.
In Bombay, I was roommate. So after that match failure, he was quite depressed with his performance so far, because he also believed that he is far more talented than what the record shows. And in Calcutta also he was bit of saying that I should get runs in this game, or otherwise there is no point me playing cricket. That kind of talk is coming from him because he was already frustrated with his performance.
India had lost the first test and was staring at defeat in the second. Chasing Australia's 445, India were dismissed for 171. Laxman made a sublime 59 at number 6. As India prepared to follow on, came a moment that changed his career.
As he was coming back, or before he went out to bat, I was the manager, I casually asked him, would you like to bat up? And he said, sir, I would love to, because that is where I have played always, at number 3.
He was telling Chetan Chauhan that no, we'll try our best, and he said we might win the game that day. So no, me sitting beside and seeing the scorecard, I felt he's saying something stupid. But then next day when we saw, he was so determined, and then he was given the chance of going number 3. And he wanted to prove a point, I think, probably.
So I spoke to John, I said, why can't we promote him? And the two of us spoke to Saurav, and Saurav said, let's think about this. And I told John, I think John Wright was the coach, I told John, I think, let's promote him, you see, and one doesn't know what happens, see.
India were trailing by 222 runs when Laxman came into bat. Australia could smell their chance to complete the victory, but they hadn't factored Laxman into the equation. As he completed his second Test century, the tide started to change.
I could see it happen. I wasn't playing that game, but I was in the team. So I would keep running in to give him drinks, to give him his gloves, his bat. And at times he was down and out, but he would not give up because it was hot. He was batting for over 7 or 8 hours, but he just went on and on and on, because one, for the fact that he knew that he had to do something for himself, and then most importantly I would say was that he had to do something for the country, because we were already 1 down in Bombay. If we had lost that series, that was the end of the series.
Laxman ruthlessly dismantled Australia's most potent weapon, Shane Warne. Warne's figures at the end of the second innings read 34 overs, 3 maidens, 152 runs and 1 wicket. It was an unforgettable assault on one of the greatest spin bowlers of all time.
He was reading Shane Warne very well, see, his leg break, his straight through, his googly, his faster delivery, he read them very well, and he was, though the ball was not spinning great, but then he was playing, sometimes against the spin also, you see, and he just played like a champion that particular inning.
Laxman found an able ally in Rahul Dravid as India stretched the lead. Great friends since their days in junior cricket, Laxman and Dravid added 376 and battered right through day 4 without being separated. In the dressing room, despondency had given way to a new buoyant spirit as the team sensed the world champions were rattled.
When we started realizing that these two are fighting out, not just for them, it's for the team, and they are fighting it against McGrath and things like that, I think we have to give them support from outside, like cheering them up whenever they come in. We have to tell them some encouraging words.
Laxman's 281 helped India become only the 3rd team in history to win a Test after being asked to follow on. Australia's world record run of 16 straight Test wins was snapped by a once-in-a-lifetime performance.
It showed that Indian cricket had the resilience. Nothing is impossible to a resolute man, that miracles are still possible. I mean, he deserved that innings of the century. It was the innings of the century. There's no better innings that anybody could have really played. I mean, it's circumstances in which that he played that innings. And when people talk of Indian cricket, that innings will always be at the forefront.
A moment of crisis had transformed into one of joy, and Laxman's place in history was secure for all time.
I think the 281 he played hit in Calcutta in 2001 was unarguably the greatest innings ever played by an Indian. If you look at the circumstances of the match, we're falling on, we are 4 wickets down against a first-class seam bowling attack, and he played a day and a half without a mistake. Mark Waugh later said, I can't believe even Bradman would have played better than that. It was a flawless innings.
In the space of one day, VVS Laxman had gone from a man fighting for his place to a man who had changed the face of the Indian game. Laxman's magical 281 also got him a regular spot in the Indian one-day team. But despite a few eye-catching performances like this century against Australia in 2001, Laxman was struggling to keep his place as a new generation of one-day specialists emerged. When the squad for the 2003 World Cup was announced, his name was missing.
When the team was announced, I just sent an SMS to him saying that fine, you're going to get lots more opportunities are going to come your way and you're going to do very well. But then suddenly he said he SMS'd back to me saying that am I dropped? Who has been selected in my place? Am I not there in the team? Then I realized that he didn't know. It's very unfortunate that he was not even informed by anybody.
He was shattered. I mean, because if you realize, he will never get an opportunity to play a World Cup. That was his best chance. He had failed in New Zealand, but so had so many others in the team before the World Cup, and it was injustice to Laxman and the selectors were not fair. I mean, it was to me a scandal. Keeping Laxman out was a scandal from the World Cup team.
But in the Test arena, Laxman continued to make a massive impact. He marked the Aussies out for special treatment yet again on India's tour in 2003-04. In 4 tests, Laxman scored 494 runs at an average of 82.33. Centuries in Adelaide and Sydney endeared him further to an Australian public for whom VVS already stood for very, very special Laxman.
There is something special about his relationship with the Australians. He just enjoyed their bowling. Maybe it suits him, or maybe there's something about him or the team. We really don't know. But even the Australians, they respect him a lot. They put him right next to the players like Sachin or maybe Brian Lara, and even the Australian crowds, they just love him.
Laxman made a triumphant return to the one-day team with 3 centuries in the span of a week in the triangular series that followed. He also made a match-winning century in the final game of the one-day series in Pakistan at Lahore, helping India clinch an historic 3-2 win. Laxman had silenced his critics and proved that if handled well, he could also be an asset to the one-day team.
As a batsman, I think you've got to fit him into a slot where he keeps getting boundaries, because he is a boundary player. He's not the player who's a great runner between the wickets. He's not a player who can go for the big shots. I think the only slot that you can really fit him in is one drop, where the field has got openings, there are field restrictions. Greatness doesn't lie in being strong. It lies in the right use of strength. So if he's fitted into that role, he will always be special.
Laxman's success against Australia is a testament to his ability. Among current players, only Brian Lara and Sachin Tendulkar have scored more runs against the all-conquering Aussies. And with a test average of well above 50 since his brilliant 281, Laxman is undoubtedly a proven match winner.
He always comes out with some magnificent knock, and people thought that Laxman was over after that. But again, he has shown that resilient character in him to come back and then bat well against the best team in the world. So if you really see, I think Laxman has the capability of becoming one of the greatest batsmen Indians have ever produced.
But this story will never only be about numbers, because whenever he bats, VVS Laxman reminds us how a piece of willow striking a leather ball can be compared to an artist's finest work.
I could go on a DTC bus and travel 1,000 miles to watch VVS Laxman play. I mean, he's got that charm. Batting without grace pleases but does not captivate. It's like a bait without the hook. Well, with Laxman, you're always going to be hooked. If I had an option of going out to lunch with Madhuri Dixit, and I adore her, or, watching VVS Laxman play and score only 20 odd, I'd choose VVS Laxman's 20.